Hey, what's up? I got some more 2xKO content for you guys. My name is Tempo and I will be your one-stop shop for 2xKO news and gameplay. Now here's my full breakdown of which tanks I think have the best chance of being added to the 2xKO roster. So for some quick context, I've been playing League of Legends since Season 1, and I'm also a fighting game enthusiast, so I have a pretty good understanding of how certain kits would translate from League over to 2xKO, but also keep in mind that this is meant to be a fun discussion video. This is my personal tier list and opinion, and you're free to have your own as well. It's very likely that some of the champs I put in low tier could make it into the game one day. Make sure to drop a sub if you're new, or a like if you enjoy this kind of video. I'll be going through the rest of the champions in future tier lists. Make sure to comment below where you think some of the champs belong, or just which ones you want in anyways, regardless of likelihood. And join the 2xKO subreddit for more news and say hi to me if you see me around, cause I'm a mod over there. With that, let's get right into it. And first, we're going to be talking about Alistar. Alistar is a really interesting one. So he has the WQ combo from League, right? Do the dash into the knockup, which is super nice. I don't really see Alistar in 2xKO over a lot of other characters though, so I'm going to lean him towards a hard maybe to basically start off the tier list right in the middle. Next, we have Amumu. So Amumu's most interesting ability, if it was translated from League to 2xKO, would be his bandage toss, right? That would also be the most fun mechanic to really play around. That's kind of it. I mean, he could have some really funny combos and stuff. The main issue with Amumu is that he is a Yordle. He's like really small, right? So we already know my take on the short characters in the game. There probably aren't going to be too many of them. There's a couple Yordles that will be put above Amumu, so he's probably going to be in the somewhat unlikely category, a little bit below Alistar, even though I really like the idea of the bandage toss being like a ranged command grab or something like that, or just a skip neutral button being able to fly across the screen and then start some corner pressure or something if the opponent is in the corner. It just sounds kind of funny to me, especially seeing Amumu's little body just fly across the screen at Mach 7. Next we have Gragas. So I've been talking with chat a little bit about like League of Legends characters and how they'd play in 2xKO. Of course, we've had this conversation a lot. A lot of people want Gragas to be a grappler, which I don't quite see. I actually see Gragas being more of a set play kind of guy with like his keg and stuff and knocking people into it while it's going to explode. That sounds really cool to me. I don't know, maybe he can also be like half grappler and just have like a command grab and like throw people into his keg, and like his ult and stuff too, being able to like knock people into it. I don't know. That just seems so cool. His setup is so interesting in League. I think Gragas compilations are some of the most fun to watch for me, because I'm just like, oh no, which angle are they going to go for this time? And they throw like a body slam flash into it and then like ult, and then the person flies behind them into the keg. It's just so interesting. So I definitely want Gragas in. I actually think that of the tanks, he has a pretty transferable kit, so I could see him in either somewhat or very likely. Like, how popular is he though? And is he going to make it to like base roster? Probably not. Could they add him in later? Yes. So I'm going to put him in the somewhat likely category. I could also be happy putting him in very likely, to be honest, just because personal preference. Next we have Leona. Leona is a very popular tank. I really like the Leona Diana dynamic. I think their story is really good. I think if there were to be like one of the tanks on this list that are higher priority, I think Leona would definitely be up there. She is primarily focused around her shield in League, but she does also carry around that sword. She uses it for auto attacks. She uses it to call the power of the sun itself, right? Praise the sun style. So I do see Leona being really easy to transfer over and to also have like really obvious melee combos and things like that. Things are super obvious with how Leona would play. I think her stun mechanic would be really interesting, like shield bash, stuff like that. So I feel like Leona is one of the more shoo-in kind of characters on this list. I definitely want to put her in the very likely category. I think Leona has a really strong shot of even making base 14 on the roster. I could definitely see it. If not, then what I could really see is kind of like what I talked about in the last video, right? I talked about the Ruination expansion and stuff like that. Or maybe that was in the ADC one, talking about Senna. So I think if they want to do storylines in 2xKO and do like themed releases, they could probably do the Leona Diana story and kind of release them together, which also just leads me to believe that that could happen in the future. So if Leona does not make base roster, they start doing some like themed expansions / free DLC, throw Leona Diana in there, and she's probably going to be in anyways. Next we have Malphite. Malphite is like a de facto tank, right? He's kind of like super iconic. He's really old. He's an OG boy. Can we do something with Big Rock? Big Rock, Big Rock. I mean, he does clap. He does got the claps in League of Legends, right? He throws his cheese wheel across the ground as well. His ulti, big knockup. I mean, he can get down and dirty. He's kind of, I don't know. Hey, no, you know what? I just made up my mind. He's too big, right? Ridley is too big for Smash. We can't put him in. Malphite, too big for 2x KO. Probably on the unlikely side. Maokai. Maokai with Sapling. Maokai knocks the ground. Dude, actually, Maokai Twisted Advance kind of sick too. Maokai, I could definitely see. I think I'm willing to put Maokai around Alistar tier. Maybe a bit higher than Alistar, but definitely below Gragas. So he's going to be a hard maybe on the tree guy. Nautilus, the first of the hook champions. So I kind of have to like compare them together. I kind of want to do Nautilus, Thresh, and Blitzcrank all next to each other because they would all have hooks. If Pyke was on here, I'd probably talk about Pyke as well, but he's an assassin, so we're going to be covering him in a future video. So Nautilus, Thresh, and Blitzcrank, the hook champs. If I had to guess, I would say Blitzcrank and Thresh have a higher chance than Nautilus, right? So let's kind of do these together. Blitzcrank is a brawler. He fits the fighting game landscape extremely well. He fits the fighting game theme very well. He fits the 2x KO art style very well. I would say Blitzcrank is very likely. Now, Thresh is kind of up there in a similar manner. I think that his hook is really cool. Flay is really cool. He's also a really big part of like the Shadow Isle story. He's a really big part of the Lucian story. And I think that Thresh probably should also go in. So do we think they would double dip on hook champions, or would they make Blitzcrank more hook focused and make Thresh more Flay focused, right? Instead of his hook, just kind of have it. Because I don't think they want to double dip on the same exact, you know, archetype or playstyle. So what they would do is incorporate them both, because I think they have to, and then just kind of give them different key points of their kits and kind of focus on those. So here's what I'm going to say. I'm going to say Blitzcrank and Thresh are very likely. Nautilus, less so, because Nautilus does not offer as much cool stuff as they do. Whereas I think they are both unique in their own rights and they have other stuff to do. Nautilus, not really so much. I think he'd be really dependent upon his hook. And if Blitz and Thresh are in, then like Nautilus kind of does not get in by proxy, right? So using that logic, I would say Nautilus is still somewhat likely at some point. Because actually, no, he's a hard maybe. I'm going to put him in a hard maybe because I don't want to put him next to Gragas. I feel like I can see Gragas way more than I can see Nautilus, and he's more like Alistar and Maokai to me. So this makes me pretty happy. I did a little like a 3 at once kind of deal here, right? Got the 3-piece combo. Next we have Nunu. So this is a really interesting one. Nunu did have a recent game called Song of Nunu, which is really, really good. It was on Steam. Hashtag not sponsored, but I did play it and it was really, really cool. So it was a nice story, really fun. So popular enough to get their own video game. Nunu and Willump. I could definitely see it as like a mount character, and I've talked about a mount before being like Rumble and Kled, right? Those are good examples. A character that's like on another character, or like on a machine, or you know, something like that. So I do feel like they make a lot of sense. Snowball makes sense. You could definitely get some melee combos with Willump, and it would look really good. There's already like source material to go off of, and they got their own game. So this is kind of wanting to make me lean very likely, even over somewhat likely, right? So let's go ahead and stick Nunu up there. I actually think Nunu is very likely. Yeah, thinking about it a second time. They would actually look really cool as well, and be really nice Freljord rep too. Speaking of Freljord rep, we have Ornn. Ornn is another one. He's kind of like a fan favorite. People really like Ornn. He's a really cool tank. Can he be... Oh, yeah, absolutely. Dude, imagine like him whipping out a bunch of different forge weapons. Like he hits with a hammer. He's got like a sickle. Oh, yes, absolutely. He could have like a lava bucket that he throws, right? And like put some lava on the ground. Yo, his bellows breath. Yo, okay, Ornn is sick. Ornn is really, really sick. I actually want to put him in the very likely category as well. Rammus. Okay. Rammus is probably, unfortunately, very unlikely. Or somewhat unlikely. Are we gonna really do our boy Rammus like that? Yeah, I think we are. Rammus doesn't really have a lot going for him. He has like a non-existent character, which is charming in and of itself. You know, people really like that Rammus is a man of few words, and he just gets things done. He rolls in, he knows what he wants to do, and he does it pretty well. But over like a lot of other characters in League, I definitely don't see it. Nor do I really see an easy kit to try to like transfer over. So he's gonna be our first boy in the very unlikely category for this video. Rell. Rell has the benefits of being a mount character like Nunu, but also have a form swap like Elise or Jace, which we talked about in previous ones as well. And she could have a very diverse and complex kit with just a few simple buttons. And I think that's really interesting. Rell would actually translate really, really well. I think she's really cool. She's not like turbo popular, but there are some Rell mains. I want to say that they're not like going to prioritize putting Rell in the roster, but she definitely does have a kit that works that I like, and it sounds really cool on paper, so I'm going to put her in hard maybe or somewhat likely. I think somewhat likely because her kit is like definitely cooler or like easier to pull off than the hard maybe characters. But I just don't see them really putting Rell in over anyone else above her. So she's going to always stay in like bottom of somewhat likely. Sejuani, another mount character. Sejuani in Bristles. So Bristle over Willump, probably no. Sejuani does have that like really cool gimmick of the ice like freezing someone. She has her hammer that she can hit people with, right? Her like ranged hammer thing. Bristle could actually do some like charge attacks, things like that. Wait, I could see it. I could see Sejuani in. Top of hard maybe? Bottom of somewhat likely. Above Rell? Actually? Yeah, let's put her around Rell. I actually see Sejuani maybe being a bit more popular. If we want to do like Freljord stuff in the future, right? Just like the Diana and Leona story, just like the Ruination story, I think if we do the three sisters, we got the Ashe, we got the Sedge, we got the Lysandra, they can all come out like at the same time in the future. So that kind of makes me want to lean like somewhat likely because it's a very prominent part of the story. It's really important to Freljord. If 2XKO gets like really big and it wants to like include all that kind of stuff and keep doing events, then I think Sejuani is probably the most likely of the three sisters to come in. So I'm going to put her in the somewhat likely category. Sion. Sion is another really good one, kind of like Ornn. Sion's got the axe. Sion has a ranged yell he can do. Oh, he can put a temporary shield on himself, ground slam, kind of like Giant Step that Big Band does from Skullgirls. I'd love to see Sion's Q have a similar thing to Giant Step. That'd be awesome. Like a little stagger or, you know, little pop-up, right? That's really nice. His ulti would be pretty cool. It'd be cool to see. Yeah, no, I could definitely see a kit for Sion. I'm going to put him around Gragas tier in somewhat likely. Zac. Zac is another good one. I really want to see Zac in Arcane, by the way, just a little side point. Right, because if we're going to get Arcane Season 2, we're going to see more Piltover and Zaun characters. I want to see Twitch. I want to see Zac. I want to see Urgot. All that kind of stuff. So, where is that going to be on the priority for being put into 2XKO, though? That is the question. Big goopy boy. He does scrap, he fights. He'd be pretty fun. I like his mechanic of picking up the globs to get HP back. I actually think that'd be a fun minigame for 2XKO. So like every time he hits one of his specials, maybe it drops a little goop and he can recover like 5% HP, you know, something pretty small, but it adds up eventually, and he just does less damage in general, which is not true to League. Of course, Zac is going to one-shot you in League while healing to full, but in 2XKO, we got to balance it a little bit better than that. So in 2XKO, he'd, you know, do a little bit less damage than other fighters, but heal up a little bit. He'd be a really cool, like, frontline kind of character that you can, like, tag out, right? And this is something I don't really consider sometimes, is like team synergy and team comps and things like that, because I think that's going to be kind of prevalent in 2XKO. being able to have like a really strong lead, really strong anchor, maybe someone that can heal your person that's being anchored. Just kind of like a fun idea to think about. We'll probably talk about that with enchanter supports, because that's kind of how I assume they would translate and be able to do stuff that's like interesting. So Zac being able to frontline, put out some goops, tank and stuff, handshake tag in. I think he's somewhat likely, actually. Probably around the Rell and Sejuani. I do like Zac in the game. I think his kit makes sense. I think he has a fun mini game that could, you know, be translated over that I kind of want to see. Braum. Braum is very popular. A lot of people love Big Daddy Braum. So I want to put him in a likely category for sure based on popularity, and he would do really well in a fighting game landscape. His shield's really cool. He's kind of like Leona in that way, but he'd also, you know, duke it out. He'd punch people in the head like he does. I really like the animation in League where he has his shield up and he like punches over it, like he reaches over to like just deck someone right in the head and then pulls back his fist. Is really cool. So I could definitely see it. He was in the Ruined King as well, another video game by Riot. Yeah, I definitely want to see it. I think he is probably as likely as Ornn. Yeah, no, I would say Braum is definitely in the very likely category. Either like very bottom or very top of somewhat, right? I think Braum has a really, really good shot at getting in. Galio has, you know, some fighting game stuff. I really like his dash, and then he does like the pummel, right? And that's really cool. His like E into passive, like boom, boom. His Q is pretty nice. W taunt. I could definitely see it. I think Galio is going to be one of those that's like, I could definitely just imagine his kit. So he's going to be somewhat likely or hard maybe. I think Galio has a good shot, to be honest. Just something about him kind of makes me think that he's going to be in at some point. So let's put him above Rell. Next we have Poppy, which I have spoiled in previous videos. I already kind of have a stance on Poppy. I think she is extremely likely for a Yordle rep. So I know that they probably want to do a little bit of region representation, or like being able to squeeze in a bunch of different kind of characters. They want to get in some Yordles. We definitely need Yordles in 2xKO. The main ones to do it are Teemo based on popularity and Poppy based on how easy her kit would be to translate. So Poppy is going to be very likely to me, probably one of the top 5 from this particular list to make it in. I think Poppy has a really good shot. I think she would make a lot of sense. I think her hammer combos and stuff like that just all kind of transfer over from League really well. I think if she wants to have her anti-dash zone, it's going to be a very strong and very toxic mechanic as well, if they're able to do it where no one can use like mobility moves while she has her zone up and they try to go inside of it. She can like hit a little stagger or something like that, or a knockback if they're trying to do it in the air, something like that. Then she has really strong Oki. Oh my god, I hope her zone does not put people into Oki. That'd actually be kind of insane. So I think Poppy has a really, really, really strong chance. Shen. Shen is kind of like also part of the story to me, with like Shen, Zed, Kennen, you know, Akali, the things like that going on in Ionia. So I want them to like release them together, but I'm pretty sure, like, another little spoiler, Zed and Akali are going to be very high on the likely tier. Shen, probably not so much. Same with Kennen. I already put Kennen in, I think it was like somewhat unlikely or hard maybe in my mage video. Shen's probably going to follow a similar route and be a hard maybe or somewhat likely. I think his kit does make sense. I really like the idea of having a sword on the ground, and then you can like pull it to different parts of the map and get like bonus damage or something like that, or maybe extra damage to guarding opponents, right? And then their guard gauge goes down faster. I like that. I really think that's a cool idea. So Shen, yeah, no, Shen's minigame would be fun. He can also do like a little zone where he can't be hit. Somewhat likely. Probably also around Rell. Tahm Kench. Mr. Thomas Kencherson. So do we want him to be tonguing people in another video game? I mean, I kind of do. Tahm Kench is like a really, really fun character. I know a lot of people like him, myself included. He's really funny. He's got a lot of good voice lines. I think his personality kind of like stands the test of time. He should probably be in. I could see his kit being a bit tricky. He would just tongue people a lot and then whip them with his tongue and then tongue them again. That's kind of like the majority of it, but he has some pretty cool combos. I really like in League when they have 3 stacks and then you do like QR and it like pulls them into your stomach. I think that'd be really cool as a grappler. Now that I think about it, he could be like a mid-range grappler, which is kind of really strong. And he like has that mini game of setting up the marks and then being able to get bonus effects when they're 3 marked. I think because there's so much depth and complexity to this kit, and there's actually a lot of cool things that you can do in 2x KO with Tahm, he's going to be somewhat likely as well. Next we have Taric, who I'm probably going to put also in somewhat likely because his kit is really awesome. He has a lot of melee stuff, he's got the shield, he's got a heal, and his stun is kind of cool too, being able to use it. Like, imagine you are corner pressuring someone and you have them in a hit string, and then all of a sudden you also call an assist, and it's like Taric's stun, and it has like a 0.5 or like a 1 second delay before it hits, so you can use that in between your like combo strings for corner pressure. Like, that's just kind of awesome. I really like the idea of Taric's gem thing, his stun being an assist call. So he does beat some ass. He does. Probably top of hard maybe, just because I don't think he's going to be like a super high priority. Kind of like with Rell, I want to put them next to each other, so I'm going to put him in the top of hard maybe. Skarner, post rework Skarner too, which I have seen quite a bit of. New Skarner. I mean, hey, he'd look kind of cool in 2x KO. I really like his new design. Rock throw. Go through walls, knock against the wall and stun. I don't really see his kit translating all that well. And I don't really know like how much more there is to go off of. I know he can like duke it out, he can like tail whip people with his tri-tail, and it would probably make sense. I really don't want to see Skarner jumping up in the air. Something about it just like makes me uncomfortable thinking about Skarner jumping in 2x KO like a big like scorpion, you know, just meow onto the opponent. I don't like the idea of it. I'm probably going to put him in somewhat unlikely. And then we have K'Sante rounding out this list. K'Sante makes way too much sense. He makes way too much sense in the fighting game landscape. You can do things with his charges on his Q. You can definitely ult with him, and then he becomes like a faster character. Kind of like maybe an install super, where instead of a super that does damage, it's a super that transforms him and enhances his other abilities. So then his 3 stack Q or whatever, when it's translated to XKO, faster, does more damage, things like that. He gets a little bit more dashy. Yeah, no, I could definitely see K'Sante. He's probably top of somewhat or bottom of very likely as well, actually. I kind of want to put him in very likely to balance out these tiers. These look really nice. And he just has a kit that really works. I think he is reached a lot of popularity in the past year or so as well. Maybe even some infamy, you could say. He's been a little bit infamous in the pro scene. So he definitely has some merit to be added. So he's popular enough. His kit makes sense. Just kind of like a well-rounded, pretty strong shot at getting in here. Again, make sure to comment your placements or what champions you want in the game. By the way, I'm going to be hosting fighting game nights in my Discord server, so feel free to hit up the link in the description if you want to join and practice for 2xKO's release. Again, I'm also a mod over on the 2xKO subreddit, so make sure you join the sub if you want to stay caught up on news and updates. And that's it for this one. Please like and subscribe if you thought this video was informative or entertaining. I'll be releasing more 2xKO content in the near future. Also follow me on Twitch if you want to catch me live. Thank you so much for watching and have a good one. Laters.